Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Trump's latest allegations about Mr. Epstein. Obviously, I can't mention it in the video because YouTube is basically deleting any videos that talk about this. And why it could lead to a war with Iran more sooner rather than later. I'm also going to be talking about Starmer's trip to China, and that's going to be spoken about. And I might bring out the idiot of the day section today as well. Anyway, let's go back into the beginning. So the Department of Justice released some files about Trump, and these were pretty severe files actually. Absolutely destroyed Trump. And then a few hours later, these files were removed from the website by Department of Justice. So the question is, who released these files? It definitely wasn't Trump. Trump would not release these files that implicate himself or show him in a bad light. So somebody in the Department of Justice did. And I happen to think probably the Israelis, to be honest. Mossad, Israelis, maybe some of the CIA that got involved. And why did they release it now? Why did they suddenly release it and then remove it afterwards? Well, I think they've released it because the Israelis, the Jews, the CIA, the deep state have been pushing Trump to start a war with Iran for weeks now. Every day you see in the newspaper, oh, we're going to start a war with Iran, we're going to start a war with Iran. But I think Trump has been um, has been basically trying not to start a war with Iran. I think he's been holding back. And because he's been holding back, the window of opportunity of attacking Iran is gone. The window of opportunity to attack Iran was around a few weeks ago when those protests were happening. And I think Israel spent a lot of time, effort, money, resources starting those protests and riots because a lot of them were Mossad agents, and they've been planning it for years. They've been putting in Starlink satellites, and so Israel has put done a lot of work to get those riots started, and all they needed was Trump to go in and basically bomb Iran. Trump didn't do that. So Israel has been very unhappy because all of these Mossad agents that started the riots have all been arrested. Well, most of them have been arrested. The riots have stopped. All the Starlink satellites that went into um, Iran found a way to basically hack them with the help of Russia and China. And everyone that has Starlink satellites suddenly lit up like you know, they suddenly lit up basically because what Iran did, they shut down all the internet and they managed to pinpoint every single user that was using Starlink, and they managed to their address and arrest them. So all that work that Mossad did, and Elon Musk was obviously involved because he owns Starlink, deep state, everyone, all the work that they've done, years and years of work, all the sleeper agents, Mossad agents, it all went to nothing, wasted all that time and effort. And all they needed was Trump to go in and attack. But Trump didn't go in and attack because I think Trump was in two minds. I mean, everyone knows that he is pretty much controlled by the Israelis and the Jews. And when he doesn't do something, they get extremely angry. So this is what's happened. I think they have been threatening Trump with Epstein files for a long time. And this is why Trump has been Israel first. In his first term, he's done a lot of stuff for Israel, and also in his second term, everything he's been doing is for Israel. And I think they've been, blackmailing him with these Epstein files and things like that. And one of the Epstein files that got released yesterday said that Trump is basically an Israeli asset, and Jared Kushner has been instrumental in getting, um, you know, Trump elected and also running his foreign policy as well. And this is why you see Jared Kushner basically doing all of Trump's foreign policy, including negotiating with Russia. He's been recently seen negotiating with Putin. Why? Because Jared Kushner is not even part of the White House. He's not a staff member of the White House. So why is a private citizen going in and negotiating with Putin? So it doesn't make any sense, right? So it just shows that Jared Kushner is actually running a lot of the show behind the scenes. He's also in charge of all the Gaza stuff as well. So Jared Kushner is doing a lot of work for the United States without being part of the United States administration, which has never happened before in the past. So what are these allegations? Well, allegations were Trump has been aping. I'm not going to say the full word, but you know what I'm talking about, guys. Aping 13-year-olds and then having them get killed afterwards. So he would ape them and kill them. Let's talk about lots of ritual sacrifices. And other people were involved in these sacrifices, including George Bush, by the way. So there's a lot of information in these files that came out, which must be extremely embarrassing for Trump. Because a few months ago, Trump was saying Epstein files do not exist, it's all a hoax. This is a hoax made up by the the Democrats. That's what he was saying. And he said he's not going to release them because they don't exist. But suddenly they exist and they've all been shown on social media. Everybody in social media is talking about it. Everybody on X, on other platforms as well. And yeah, so it's absolutely crazy. So I think Trump probably made some calls to the Department of Justice, asking them to take them down, and they've taken them down. So what does it all mean? Why is these, why have they been released? Well, I'll tell you why they've been released now. So Marjorie Taylor Greene suggests Trump will bomb Iran after Epstein files dump. So this file dump was a warning from the Israelis, from the Jews, deep state, CIA to Trump, saying that you know we will release more files. This was just a taster. If you don't do what we tell you, we will release more and more of these files. And you can see how much Trump has been absolutely destroyed by these files that were released yesterday. Most of his MAGA crowd really disowned him. And I've seen a lot of MAGA accounts basically turned on him yesterday. Millions and millions of MAGAs basically turning on Trump. And so the Israelis basically said that, look, this is just a taster. If you don't do what we ask you, we're going to release more. So I think Trump may not have a choice but to bomb Iran because he is, and why? Because first of all, bombing Iran would be like a diversion from all these Epstein files because everybody will stop talking about Epstein and start talking about Iran. So I think this is why he might bomb Iran because this is a major, major diversion to keep him off the news for Epstein. I said the word, by the way. I hope I don't get banned. Never mind, we'll see. But you can see why many people think that this war against Iran might come sooner rather than later because I think Trump may not have a choice. I think he may be forced into it. And even if America gets forced into it, guys, they are not gonna they are not gonna win. So Trump has basically come on recently has said he said that he wants to negotiate with Iran and he wants to for them to agree on a deal on the table, otherwise he's going to bomb them. So what's the deal? This deal is basically what the Israelis want, and the Israelis have been saying this for years, by the way. So Trump's deal is basically what Israel wants. So this again shows that Trump is controlled by Israel, and this deal is absolutely crazy, by the way. So what is this deal? They want Iran to stop developing nuclear, and includes nuclear power, civilian use, as well as anything that could lead to military use. And so they don't want Iran to have any source of nuclear power whatsoever. So they want Iran to stop that. They don't want Iran to develop long-range, missiles that can reach Tel Aviv. They don't want Iran to develop long-range drones. They want Iran to stop trading with Russia and China. They want Iran to start giving away its resources and pressure to United States companies like oil and gas. They want Iran to basically stop arming the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, and other proxy groups in the area. Basically, they want Iran to be another puppet, like Qatar and all these other Middle Eastern puppet countries. They basically want that, and Iran obviously has said no. So Trump is basically threatening to attack them, but can he actually do anything about it? I don't think he can, to be honest, because we're not talking about Iraq here, guys. When America attacked Iraq, it was a different time and different era. If they want a regime change in Iran, they're going to have to put boots in the ground. They're going to have to go into Iran, and they're going to have to basically force a regime change like they did with Iraq. However, if they have boots on the ground, can you imagine the number of troops America will need to invade Iran? You know, they will need 10 times as many troops as they did with Iraq, 10 times, because Iran is far larger, Iran is far more powerful, it's got more weapons. So it's going to take a huge force, huge amounts of money and resources to invade Iran. And it's not like the Iraq War. Remember the Iraq War? You had all these Abram tanks and American tanks going into Iraq, and they were driving along the main roads in Iraq, and they drove straight into Baghdad, and they took down Baghdad. Let's not do that with Iran. Can you imagine if there's tanks rolling across Iran? Can you imagine what will happen to them? Because Iran has got drones that can take out these tanks. They got missiles that can take out these tanks. There is no way the Americans can drive all the way to Tehran, without getting destroyed by missiles and drones and everything like that. Then when they invaded Iraq, Iraq didn't have any drones, and they had no missiles as well because inspectors have been taking them down, and all the sanctions and all the all the inspectors basically took down Iraq's way of defending themselves. So they had no more missiles left whatsoever. All their scuds were taken down. So Iraq was basically uh, just like a sitting duck, guys. It was just waiting to be invaded, and Saddam could do nothing about it. And Iran is not in the same boat. Iran has got its own military, and they've been building up their own, military for years. Same as China. Iran was not allowed to buy any Western weapons, and so they've been building up their own military. They've also been buying from Russia and China as well, and they use Chinese navigation systems to target, you know, Israeli cities and military sites. So if Trump decides to attack Iran, he's going to need a huge military, which America does not have, guys. They are absolutely broke. They've got no money left whatsoever. They are in huge debt. When they attacked Iran back in the day, America was in a much better place. There wasn't much debt in America back then. America was the sole superpower of the world. The Soviet Union had collapsed. America was making so much money back then. All the countries were investing in America, and they felt that they could do whatever they want back then, and that's what they did. But things are different now. They are in huge debt, huge economic crisis. They cannot afford, a war with Iran is probably going to cost them tens of trillions. We're talking about could be 10 trillion, 20 trillion, who knows? And they're going to lose a lot of aircraft carriers as well because Iran can take out aircraft carriers. If they can reach Tel Aviv and if they can hit accurately military bases in Tel Aviv, they can accurately hit these sitting ducks in the sea, easily. So they will lose a lot of men, they will lose a lot of weapons, they will lose a lot of aircraft carriers, and they will lose a lot of planes as well because Iran has also got a lot of Russian anti-aircraft guns and Chinese as well. And they've been stocking up since the 12th Day War. Iran has been actively stocking up on their anti-aircraft capabilities, buying more radars, anti-aircraft from China and as well as from Russia. They've been buying planes, the J-10 from China, and also recently I've heard that the Russian planes have been arriving in Iran as well, and Russian helicopters. Lots of weapons have been landing in Iran over the last few weeks because they know there's attack coming. And also, there's a joint military drill between China, Russia, and Iran happening as well. They're going to do some live fire exercises. So again, Trump is underestimating, an attack on Iran because back then, when they attacked Iraq back in the day, Iraq had no real allies. Basically, the whole world attacked Iraq. They went through the UN, and the UN basically made some resolutions and stuff, and America went in with all of their allies and basically bombed the country to smithereens. And China wasn't powerful back then to um, protect Iraq, and the Soviet Union just collapsed as well. So there was no real, counterbalance to the West back in the day. So Iraq was very, very unlucky. Things are different now. Iran has got lots of allies. They've got Russia, they've got China, and they've got other allies as well. Basically, you've got the Houthis that can again start blowing up American ships in the Red Sea. They've got Hezbollah. They've got quite a few allies in Iran. They've also got Iraq as well as an ally. They do have a lot of allies, and they can do a lot of damage to American interests in the region. A lot of American bases will be destroyed. A lot of American lives will be destroyed in the region. And because of Iran's hypersonic missiles, their aircraft carriers will have to stay quite far distance, and which means that any bombing raids to Iran, they will have to refuel because countries near Iran, like UAE, Saudi Arabia, they said that they will not host American bases and not be a base to attack Iran because if they do, then those countries will be a target. So what they're going to have to do is basically use long-range attacks from aircraft carriers, and they're going to have to refuel along the sea a few times. So this makes logistics extremely difficult for America to attack Iran. Iran is also a very mountainous country as well, and it's not going to be easy, guys. It's not going to be easy. So, other thing Iran is going to do is any attack on Iran, they're going to start attacking Israel again, and Israel is not ready for another barrage of attacks by Iran. Last time they only lasted a 12-day war, and after 12 days, all of their anti-aircraft guns and batteries had finished, and Israel was getting battered by Iranian missiles, and and countries were spending billions trying to protect Israel. So you had British, American, NATO planes flying in and shooting down cheap missiles and drones. This was costing them billions, guys, billions it was costing them. So they are not ready for another attack on Israel. And Trump basically does not have any cards. He keeps saying, I've got the cards, I've got the cards." He's got no cards, guys. He's got no money. America's pretty much broke. Israel's going to get absolutely hammered by Iran. They've got no way of attacking Iran. They cannot have a ground force to invade Iran. So their attack on Iran is basically based on hope and speculation. And we know that Trump loves speculation. He's a real estate mogul. So all of his properties and everything, his all the money he's made is based on speculation. House price increase and things like that. It's all speculation. So this is how he thinks. He thinks that he can do a few bombs on Iran, drop a few bombs. There will be regime change in Iran. People will rise up in Iran and topple the country. That's what he thinks. That's not what's going to happen. The riots and stuff were organized by the Mossad, CIA, and most of them have been taken down. So there's not going to be another where people are going to be rioting and stuff in the street. That's not going to happen again because Iran has already taken that down. So Trump is basically running out of options. He has to attack Iran because if he doesn't, those Epstein files will be released more and more. And I think he just doesn't know how to do it. And I think he's going to be attacking Iran based on speculation. I think they're going to try and do a few bombing runs. They might use special forces to try and find the Grand Ayatollah Khomeini and kidnap him, which is not going to happen because they've been trying. Israel and Mossad have been trying to kidnap him and kill him for over 50 years, and they've not been succeeding, and the CIA as well. So he is well hidden. He's not going to be able. They're not going to be able to find him. And even if they know where he is, Tehran is north north of the country. So there is no way that they can go all the way from the south all the way to the north, kidnap him, and then come out of Iran. It's almost impossible. Iran is not a Venezuela, by the way. And the army in Iran, the IRGC, they have been they are an Islamic army, and they have been training and ever since the Iraq-Iran war, they have been fighting Saddam, and Saddam back in the day was being armed by Israel and the West. And even with all that army and that and all the money that Saddam got from the West to attack Iran, even he couldn't defeat Iran at the time. And and yeah, it's just an impossible job. I think the best solution for Trump is to make peace with Iran. Come up with a deal that both countries, America and Iran, can agree on. Forget Israel. This is about America first. This is not about Israel first. Who cares what Israel thinks? Israel has been using America to bomb every single Middle Eastern country for centuries now. Well, not for centuries, for decades, I would say. But yeah, forget what Israel thinks. America needs to do everything in its own interest. It's in America's own interest to make a deal with Iran, trade with Iran, because you cannot. Part of diplomacy is, you know, y- you don't expect to get along with every single country, but you find areas where you can agree on, and those are the areas that you make a deal with. America cannot expect every single country to be a puppet of America. There will be countries that it cannot, agree with or have completely different interests. But this is what diplomacy is all about. Without diplomacy, you need very skilled diplomats to basically go in and make a deal. Coming up with solutions like Iran's cannot have nuclear power. Iran cannot have long-range missiles. Things like that. It's not going to work. No country is going to give that up. So Trump needs to make a deal based on American interests, not Israeli interests. And he needs to. I mean, the Epstein files have been released now, so he's pretty much got nothing to lose. I don't think the Israelis can threaten him anymore. I think if Trump, unless they got even worse stuff that could be released, I don't know. But Trump needs to be like, you know what? If you want to release them, just release them. I don't care. I'm not going to be a slave. I'm not going to be a puppet of you guys anymore. I will basically do whatever is in American interest. And I think if Trump came out today and said, look, the Israelis have been threatening me with the Epstein files and stuff. Yeah, I made some mistakes back in the day. I'm not the same person anymore. And, the Israelis have been basically been, blackmailing me, and they've been blackmailing every single United States president. They've been pushing American foreign policy to be Israeli foreign policy. They have been taking over our CIA, our intelligence, our military. They've been taking over our government. We need to get rid of this Israeli regime's hold on American interests. And I think if you said something like that, people would support him. People would say like, yeah, you know what? These Israelis have got complete control over American government and institutions. They need to be completely taken out. And I think if there is a process where these Israelis can be taken out of all of these institutions, then people would respect Trump, because that would be great for America. Trump would be like an absolute national hero. They would forgive him for what's happened in the past. They'll be like, yeah, you know what? These Israelis have been mailing up presidents, making us bomb every single Middle Eastern country for them. You know, eh, all these wars that we've been fighting was basically for them. And I think he can easily turn it around, but I don't know if Trump can do that, to be honest. I don't think he's got the balls or the intelligence to do that. But we'll see, guys. But either way, this war with Iran is going to be impossible to win for America. Impossible. There is no way in hell that they can bomb Iran, have a regime change, and win. There is no way. Impossible. They would need a huge ground force, which they cannot afford. And even if they do get a huge ground force, there's going to be so many casualties. Iran's going to use drones and missiles. Um, China and Russia's going to provide Iran all the intelligence and missile and technology and weapons that it needs. It's going to be absolutely a nightmare for America to win that war. So it's not going to happen. The Israelis are obviously pushing it, but yeah, how far can they push it? I don't know. So let's talk about Starmer. Starmer has arrived in China, and he spent a few days there. I think there's pictures of him traveling around in the Forbidden City, and he had a tour guide there. And it was quite funny to see, to be honest. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the clips. There was one clip in particular. Starmer was acting like Biden. He didn't know where he was going along the red carpet, because there was a mini ceremony in China when he arrived, and he was walking along the red carpet. And like Biden, he was just wandering off the red carpet. And then I think his I can't remember the Chinese diplomat, but yeah, somebody had to basically grab him and put him back onto the red carpet, and make him walk along the right path. And it was so funny to see. It's basically the British version of Biden. He just didn't know where he was going. And Starmer looked absolutely frightened throughout his trip. I think the British media has given him a very hard time. They said that you know Starmer looked scared. He looked lost. He didn't know what he was doing. And there's some. article saying that Starmer was the shortest guy in China because everybody around him in China were taller than him. It was so funny to see that article. And yeah, Starmer was walking around the Forbidden City. He didn't have a entourage. He didn't have any Chinese, important leaders walking with him. Because when Trump arrived in his first term to see President Xi, President Xi was actually escorting him, and so he was nothing like that. Starmer didn't get the same sort of treatment. But he did get lots of deals from China. I think obviously there's 30-day now. British people don't need a visa for 30 days, and there was a few deals that was signed with finance. For example, the Chinese bank now can operate more freely in UK. They can change RMB to British pounds. There's a lot of Chinese more Chinese investments that are going to be coming into UK, and same way, British companies are going to get more access to China as well. So he came out with some good deals, by the way. And I think a lot of British papers are forgetting that Britain actually needs China. They need to kind of work with each other, not just for British economy, but also you know Britain cannot rely on America because Britain has been pretty much a vassal state of America for a long time. And now Trump is in power. He's placing all these tariffs and sanctions on British companies, and British economy has been absolutely destroyed by Trump's tariffs. So Britain needs to kind of start, opening up his eyes and looking at other markets around the world, namely China and other markets. They cannot always rely on America and be vassals of America. So, so what Starmer is doing is the right thing, in my opinion. But a lot of papers are obviously very racist, anti-Chinese, and they are giving him a very hard time. I'm surprised that China didn't raise human rights issues with Britain, because Britain has got absolutely horrendous amount of human rights issues. They helped the genocide in Gaza, so I'm surprised that China didn't raise the human rights issue with Britain, and uh, and that would have been a highlight of the trip, I think. But yeah, my opinion is I think what Starmer is doing is correct. I think Britain needs to find his own path, stop being absolute puppets to America, and move forward in life. So my final thing is the idiot of the day, and my idiot of the day is none other than Melania and Jeff Bezos. So Melania released a film in Britain, and there was a big premiere in Britain, and only one or two people turned up. By the way, you know, al- almost like one or two tickets got sold. And I'm not joking, guys. Absolutely, in the premiere, one ticket got sold, and the second showing, only two tickets got sold. People do not want to watch a Melania film in Britain. Amazon basically paid for this. They spent 40 million on making this movie. They spent 35 million on marketing and promotions on this movie. And also, Jeff Bezos paid Melania around 20 million, so something ridiculous amounts of money. So altogether, they spent about 100 million making this movie, including marketing costs and other costs and things like that. And they probably had to pay Trump as well, because I think for Trump to give Amazon certain favors, Jeff Bezos probably said to Trump, said, "Look, we're going to make a film about Melania and stuff like that." So this is how, companies make favors by giving Trump what he wants and what he needs. So this was kind of a bribe from Amazon to Trump. So Trump gives Amazon favors. So probably Jeff Bezos said to Trump, you know what, we're going to make a film about Melania. We're going to make her famous. This film's going to make hundreds of millions. We're going to put you in a good light, and and in return, if you can do us this favor, put do not put any tariffs or sanctions against Amazon. And this was part of a deal that probably Trump made with Jeff Bezos. Problem is, this film has completely failed. Amazon probably spent over 100 million on it, and obviously probably gave more money to Trump as well. And the film completely flopped, guys. And they wasted 100 million for nothing. For nothing. And recently, I've heard that Amazon they basically laid off 19,000 people, Amazon workers. They laid off. So they spent all that money, wasted all that money, and then they lay off 19,000 people. I mean, how does that make any business sense? There is no common sense in how they're running these businesses. So it's absolutely hilarious, Melania getting absolutely embarrassed by the lack of people watching her show, and I think Trump is also embarrassed as well. And it's I just find it's absolutely hilarious, guys. The fact that they decided to make this film and release it at this time. Trump is hated in Britain, hated. Basically, he's been making lots of statements about Britain, about you know um, the armed forces in Afghanistan did nothing. They were lazy. British troops are lazy. He's been putting tariffs on Britain. Trump has been actively being anti-British, and the British people absolutely hate him. And for him to think that British people will love him and watch his film and watch Melania's film is crazy, guys. So this is why she's the idiot of the day, and also, you know, Jeff Bezos is the idiot of the day as well. And it's absolutely crazy, guys. Anyway, that's all for today, and I'll see you in the next show. Don't forget to like and share. Try and watch the video to the end. It really helps the algorithm. Thanks, guys. See you.